Hey guys, I want to talk about the mourning process today and what that kind of looks like, how we should face that, and how long that's going to be around. So when we mourn, we know it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be sorrowful, and I've explained that many times. We can see it all throughout the Bible. It's not wrong for us to have those feelings, for us to be sad, but it's wrong for us to stay there. And unfortunately, for the length of sorrow and sadness, we're gonna face that for the rest of our lives. It sounds depressing for me to say that, but it's true. It's something that we are going to face for the rest of our lives. If you have an alcohol addiction or you have a drug addiction, those temptations are probably going to, well, not probably, they definitely are going to be there for the rest of your life. And you're going to have to fight against that. Some people struggle with things more than others. I I definitely struggle with depression and feelings of sorrow and feelings of self-hate now. And some other people, they might not struggle with those feelings as much. They might struggle with, as I said, alcohol or drugs. They might struggle with lust. They might struggle with something different, but that doesn't mean that thing is gonna go away. God gives us the power to triumph over that. In Him, we are more than conquerors. And we know that He gives us the power to reign victorious through Him over that sin. I want to say that we have no power in and of ourselves. We are powerless in ourselves to combat sin. The only one that has power is Jesus Christ up there. We have no power because if we go and we try and fight it on our own, 10 times out of 10 we're gonna fail. And we need to remember that, and we need to humbly come before God. We need to recognize that I can't do it myself. I can't earn any part of my salvation. I can't defeat this sorrow in my life. I just you need to recognize that you're a person, and this is God who is able to do anything we ask or anything we need. God is able to do that. But if we're not willing to recognize the fact that we need help, the fact that we are lost, God is able, yeah, He's able to, show us the way. He's able to help us find ourselves. But it's not about the ability of God, it's about, will God do that? I don't think God is gonna, you know, God, I don't think He's going to help us out of the situation when we don't particularly think it's wrong. So when we're looking at mourning, we need to realize that I am in this pit of sadness, in this pit of sorrow, in this pit of depression. It's dark, it's lonely in here, it's hopeless. I understand where I am. But at that point, we need to look to God and ask Him to illuminate that hole, we need to realize that we're there, because we can't start climbing out of that hole until we realize where the walls are of that hole. And that comes with the illumination. That comes with the realization of, man, I am in this terrible place. I hate where I am, in this pit of sorrow, depression, loneliness, of self-hate, and I don't want to be here anymore. So it's a little bit of a mental game as well. You need to you need to think, and you need to change your thinking. That's something that I'm gonna talk about later with the GIGO mentality. If we're if we're thinking, oh, woe is me, and we're listening to those sad songs all the time and sad movies, we're just keeping ourselves in that hole. What we need to do is we need to realize where we are, and we need to look to God for a rescue, because we need to realize we don't want to stay in that hole. We don't want to stay in that place of sorrow, of defeat. So when you're mourning, when you guys mourn, I want you to mourn, but I want you to mourn with the intention behind your mourning that, you know, I look to God for my rescue. Where does my help come from? Your help comes from God. Your help comes from Jesus. You need to recognize where you are first, though, so that you can be helped. Because God's not gonna force himself on you. He's not gonna say, "Hey, I know the right path. I know how to get out of this. So listen to me. And this is what we're gonna do." You need to recognize first that you are in that place of defeat and of depression, of sorrow and sadness and loneliness and self-hate. You need to recognize that you cannot do it yourself. That only He can. And only He can illuminate that hole for you, so you can begin to crawl your way out of that hole. It is not an easy process. Fortunately, I've been working on getting myself out of that hole for about 5 years now. I was depressed beforehand, but I'm working on getting myself out of that hole, and that is something that we should all desire. The mourning, the sadness, unfortunately, that's never gonna go away. It's never gonna go away in our lives. We're always gonna have that there. It's always gonna be there, but it can be limited by the joy that we find in Christ, in our salvation. And that is what I want to encourage you guys to look towards. Because if we are looking towards things in this life to make us happy, my friends, I tell you, they're not going to make you happy. They're going to make you more sad and more depressed. So look to God for your salvation. Look to God to help you get out of that hole.